Hey everybody, this is Perch, and it's time for Inferno #1. Now, Inferno got a huge bit of publicity because it's in effect Jonathan Hickman's conclusion to his X-Men saga that it started off in. Let me tell you, there are spoilers in this review. We're going to get right into kind of Hickman's opus. How will Hickman wrap all this stuff up? Well, the comic opens up right away with a bunch of action. Basically, it starts out kind of blurry, and then Wolverine kind of stands up, and he's shaky. And he's basically, there's been some giant attack. You see, the Children of the Vault have come, and they've wiped out a big portion of Krakoa. And there's like this, it's like there's, you can't hear it, of course, because it's a comic book. There's like a ringing in the ear, and there's a hole blown in the earth. And underneath that hole is this, is what looks like a prison. And inside he sees himself. And there's all these, the X-Men are there kind of trapped. And Wolverine's like, what's going on? What's going on? He looks down, he realizes that he's a clone. And Mr. Sinister shows up and says, you shouldn't have seen that. And he wipes him out. It's like, what's going on? And suddenly the members of Orchis arrive with kind of these robot sentinels. They start just blowing everything up. And it's like, oh my God, everything we've been seeing for the last 2 years, like this crazy, dumb sword, rando, silly game tournament, and everything else. It was all just a kind of clones and a dream. None of it was real. No, I'm just kidding. The comic doesn't open up that way at all. Anyway, this is Hickman's conclusion to kind of it's Hickman's conclusion, not the conclusion to the story. But at any rate, this series promises to kind of reveal some big secrets, primarily around Mystique and her wife, Destiny, who was not resurrected by Xavier and Magneto. They've been kind of holding it over her head. And the reason they've been doing that is on request of Moira, who basically has been going through her different lives. Moira is a bit salty because back in the day, Mystique and Destiny in her third life actually killed her, burned her alive very, very painfully. And so she's been pissed about Destiny. We actually haven't seen any of that, like during the time when the X-Men went through the Siege Perilous and were in Australia after Fall of the Mutants. And then Moira was on the island with Forge and Strong Guy, and I think Polaris was there. Mystique and Destiny were kind of hanging out at that point. You didn't get that animosity then, but that's okay. Don't worry about it. But anyway, Moira's basically told Xavier and Magneto, hey, you can't resurrect Destiny. You can't do it. And Mystique's been kind of pissy about that because she's like, even though the majority of my comic career has shown me like, sleeping with Wolverine, doing other things, like my heart belongs to Destiny. That's who I am now. So this comic opens up, and it's Emma Frost, and Emma Frost in this case is wearing the little Xavier helmet, which has got to smell at this point. Can they clean that thing? Anyway, Xavier and Magneto both kind of come out of the cocoon shells. You assume it's Magneto, but the hair is colored very very brown, so it may not be. It just may be some kind of random long-haired guy here. But in theory, this is Magneto. But because she's resurrected them, she's the one doing it this time. She's got to kind of put the consciousness into these characters, and you think right away, well, now she's going to know all the secrets. She's going to know about Moira hanging out down in a basement and all this kind of stuff. But okay, no problem. So we move from there. That seems ominous, but that's all right. And we're back at the Orchis Forge, which is right at the sun. And Wolverine and Kid Omega, Quentin Quire, and Domino are there. And they're coming in to go take out Nimrod. And of course, they just get shit mixed by Nimrod, who quickly dispatches Domino in a really terrible way. Like he puts a sticky bomb on her Achilles heel, like Pet Sematary style, and just takes her out. And Quentin Quire just gets kind of vaporized alive, kind of disintegrates the target. And then Wolverine gets a good sucker punch in, but there are other Nimrods there, and they kind of fry him alive. So they do this, and then the people on the Orchis station have a nice chat. Dr. Gregor is still there. She's kind of pissy because her husband's consciousness was put into Nimrod, but then it didn't work quite well. So she's in a loveless robot marriage, as they do. And they're kind of pondering the fact they've got all these bodies, these skeletons of Wolverine kind of hang out in these green tubes. What are they doing with those? I don't know. But basically they're saying the same mutants keep coming over and over and over again. and but they don't seem to be learning anything. So that's not good. And Karima is like, no, they keep coming, but that comment doesn't really make a lot of sense. But that's all right. And meanwhile, we kind of flash back. We flash back to Moira, and this is Moira in her third life, and we get a bit of a extended scene from before when Destiny and Mystique showed up and kind of captured her and were going to murder her. So in this life, Moira is trying to cure mutants, basically prevent them from cure mutants, basically. And Destiny and Mystique don't like that because I don't know, because it's going against their kind, I guess. One of the things that has never really made a lot of sense is if you're a villain and you're trying to gain control over other mutants, including murdering them, like Destiny and Mystique would regularly do, then you would think somebody running around trying to put a cure in place would, be good for you because it could wipe out some of that competition. But in any case, they're very much about their race and their kind, even though they regularly go out and murder them. And they talk to her for a while. They do know Destiny knows the whole game, that she can, resurrect, and there will be 10 lives. And we get again that kind of a repeat of this. I think this was House of X issue 2, was that right? I think that's where this came in from. But anyway, it's a callback to that piece where they're going back and forth, with Destiny and Mystique basically telling her, "Look, you gotta help us mutants out, you bitch," and then they burn her alive. So we get a longer scene with this that basically is setting up the dynamic between the three of them. So we flash forward back to now, and Moira is kind of checking out the old lab, and she's reminiscing on this Project Cure thing, and we don't really know why, but she's hanging out, and we realize that she goes back to her apartment, and it's rainy and crappy, and usually in comics when it's rainy and crappy, that means it's London, so let's just assume it's there. Nope, it's Paris. Yeah, how about that? Okay. Paris is usually rendered with flowers and lights and things. Oh, there's the Eiffel Tower in the background. I see it now. Definitely it had that gray London, everything is shitty vibe. So anyway, there's some members of Orchis, and they're represented by some AIM people and some SHIELD people, and they're spying on her, and something's not quite right. And so then we get a kind of extended scene where back at the Orchis headquarters in Terra Verde, it's a node. It's a node. So we had a little data sheet earlier that explained that there's nodes and then there's headquarters, but the X-Men don't know where the headquarters are, but they'd like to know, and they keep destroying the nodes, but it doesn't really seem to be fixing anything. Anyway, so we get back to this place where they're kind of keeping track of the mutants, and there's a couple people who are monkeys here, and the monkeys basically patch in the old granny florists, the gardeners, from way back in Hickman's run. And they're like, you sold us some data about the mutant bases, but it doesn't seem to be working. The granny's like, listen, monkey, you can just shut your face right here because it's working. And they argue for a while. And then finally the granny's like, what you didn't realize, there's two gates there. There's one in the first floor and one in the second floor. They got basically a basement gate. And this freaks the monkeys out. So they all get all excited about it. And Beautiful Dreamer is there. And she's Recon Agent Tommy. Not sure, was that Beautiful Dreamer's name? Oh, well, whatever. Anyway, she dials back to Sage going, hey, it seems like everybody's more pissy about us now, so we might want to watch out for the Paris location. This goes on for a while, and I guess it's intended to show you that the grannies are still out there from Hickman's earlier run, so it's nice. He's remembering that plot point that nobody else really used. And then, the monkeys are here. And we get to basically, we walk away from all that. It built up some tension, and then we're like, let's halt that. And so we get back to Moira's little underwater fish tank apartment that she lives in back in Krakoa. And she shows up, and sure enough, there's Xavier and Magneto there. And Moira's like, she's being more bitchy this time. It seems like there's tension between the three of them, you see. Xavier and Magneto are kind of being stupid, and Moira's like, God, dumb men. And Xavier's like, hey, why don't we try making friends with the machines? Why don't we try that? Because we don't see every time we send of the thousands of mutants we've got on Krakoa and all the weapons. I mean, we just made a planet, but when we send like 2 or 3 mutants at a time to the space station over there hovering the sun, even though we have a planet, an entire mutant planet, and thousands of people from Morocco, and even though we have all that kind of stuff, we can't seem to ever beat the space station that's orbiting the sun when we send like 2 or 3 mutants at a time. Even though we have hundreds of thousands of mutants, when you send 2 or 3 mutants at a time, we're not able to really ever figure out what's going on in that their space station. Maybe we should just give up and basically make friends with the robots. And Moira's like, well, you guys are dumb as shit. And Magneto's like, well, I'm going to have some wine. And Moira continues to kind of bitch at him for a while and says, look, there's only 2 things. Number 1, the machines are bad. And number 2, don't bring back Destiny. And so they're going to screw both those things up. So anyway, she keeps saying, look, wait a minute. How'd you know I was here? Are you having me followed? And Xavier's like, no, we wouldn't do anything dodgy like that. And Magneto's like, no, we just put some trackers in your tea and then, had it kind of sit in your left elbow. And we colonize these nanites that allow us to track you full time. It's like having that Find Friends option on your iPhone. You can never turn it off because it's under your skin. And Moira goes into an entire speech about government overreach and why this is a problem and we're losing individual freedoms. And the next thing you know, there'll be some kind of vaccine mandate. But anyway, they're like, you know what, Moira, why don't you just shut up? You got this nice view in the fish tank here. And you can pretty much come and go. And we even got you Jubilee's coat that you're able to wear around. So what are you really complaining about? And they go back and they're saying, look, Moira's like, why don't you kick Mystique out of the council? Because she's a bitch. She burned me alive at this one point, and you put her on the leadership council for reasons that are only known to you. Like, you dumbass. Why would you do that? Again, you have thousands of mutants on this island to pick from. I mean, you made Blob a bartender over in the bar. You don't think you could have him be on the council? Instead, you put the woman who's married to the most dangerous person on the entire island that I keep warning you about over and over and over again. And, Xavier's like, well, I guess you got a point there. And they're like, look, let's stop this shenanigans once and for all. And so she basically tells him, hey, you get in there and, you control things. You need to get any traces of the DNA. And so we see a scene of Magneto like flying into, I don't know, wherever the spire here. And he's got this weird squid statue, except it's most likely not Magneto. This is most likely Mystique, who's dressed up like Magneto, who steals a little helmet there. And most likely is stealing the helmet so Emma, who was at the very beginning, can actually resurrect Destiny because Mystique's made some kind of deal with her. That's my guess, but I mean that'd be too obvious and crazy. So then we flash forward to a scene of Xavier wearing said helmet, and he's getting some little tubes from Mr. Sinister. And you might think, this is like, he's going to go vape, but no, this is apparently Destiny's DNA. And so he gets that. But most likely this also is not Xavier. This is most likely Mystique again, collecting the DNA from Sinister, who's like, here you go. And then we get this data sheet about how Black Tom is feeling depressed and very planty. And then we get back to Moira's fish tank. And they're like, look, Moira's like, I got to just say it for the 50th time. You got to get, you cannot have Destiny ever breathing air. She's got to be gone forever and ever and ever. She needs to be burned from existence. Like, I hate this woman. She's bad. So it's like, all right. So then we head on over to Doug Ramsey, who's, he's basically married to this warrior woman and Bay. And he gives her a nice kiss on the cheek. But then she gives him like she's pretending to sleep. Basically, what we're seeing here is this marriage isn't very good. Most likely because he's got a really lame-ass vest with just one sleeve on that looks absolutely ridiculous. But anyway, he's feeling pretty happy with himself. And she's thinking, I made a terrible mistake. And they head off into the garden. He has a little conversation with Warlock. And they're trying to see how the things are going on the island. And we get to Krakoa and the Leadership Council, and basically the war generals show up and say, hey, you know what? I'm Cyclops, and I'm going to go be on this X-Men team. So I can't be part of this big crossover event because I got my own thing going on. So I'm going to step out of this crossover event and go head over there, and I'm going to put Bishop in here in my place. And, it's about time we had a general. and he's black and has a completely red costume, which people who are soldiers for some kind of sci-fi type odyssey, who wear red clothes and are black, they have a 100% survival rate in adventure. So let's go ahead and make him take my place, and that'll be great. And so they basically christen him a war general, and then they say, Psylocke is getting in here too. I guess this is Quanon Psylocke. So anyway, so there's Psylocke is going to replace Gorgon. He's been dead for a while. If you remember that, he died in the Ten of Swords business, and unlike the other people they brought back, they just didn't bring back Gorgon for, I don't know, reasons. They brought back the Hellions, but whatever. So anyway, they're not going to bring back him until they need him. That'll be later. So basically, Quanon and Bishop join the team, and then they go off to drink in Madripoor, and that sounds good. And then we get a good council meeting. And who doesn't love a good council meeting? I want to point out at this point that the action in this book for Inferno, which was saying it was going to shock the world and burn things down, has pretty much been 2 pages of a brief fight where the X-Men got absolutely shit mixed up on Orchis, but that's okay. So anyway, we get to the Quiet Council, and they're basically saying, hey, maybe we should leave. We need a retirement plan. Why don't some people go? And, Magneto's like, I've thought about stepping down. Psych. I wonder where this, does it, clearly he's cleared from the Scarlet Witch trial, right? I mean, this story takes place after the death of Scarlet Witch, which maybe nobody gives a damn about, is what I'm kind of seeing in this, because Magneto's still here. It's fine. Marvel's like, you know what? We're only 2 issues into that big death, the trial of Magneto's storyline. That's a big deal, but screw it. I don't care about spoiling that ending. We'll just have him in here. It's okay. And Mystique's like, hey, I've got something to say. And Xavier and Magneto's like, oh, this is great. You're leaving? This sounds perfect. This is we don't have to have an uncomfortable conversation like Moira had. This is good news, which is good. Like Magneto, a man who has basically killed off most of New York at one point. I guess it was a alternate version of himself, not really him. But anyway, he was very squeamish about having to have a direct conversation with Mystique. So they're both very relieved. Mystique stands up. They think she's about to retire, but no, she's like, I've got a candidate for the council. And who walks in? Destiny, she's not supposed to be back to life, but here she is, back to life. And Emma's looking a little sneaky, and Kurt's like, oh, my goodness. And I don't know why, because nobody but Xavier and Magneto know about this plan not to have her back. But anyway, Destiny shows up, and she's wearing a completely inappropriate outfit for her age, but that's okay, body positivity. And, Mystique's like, let's vote. Let's vote on her joining the council. While Xavier and Magneto look kind of pissy. They're both thinking, oh man, Moira's going to be pissed. And that's where our issue ends. So, Inferno #1, will it generate the same kind of excitement and energy that House of X Powers of 10 did? I used to put up those videos, and I'd get like 6,000, 8,000 views off every review. Everybody loved those. So, how will we feel about this one? I'm thinking it won't do as well. But anyway, this is wrapping up Hickman's run on this series as head of X, and we'll see where it goes from here. Anyway, did you like Inferno? Oh, there's spoilers in this video. Did I mention that earlier?